Greetings from Costa Rica, and thank you for joining me for this Friday, July 18, 2025 live broadcast. It can be a great decision to buy land and build a home here in Guanacaste, Costa Rica at certain times and in certain places. And it can be an awful decision at different times and different places. Today, I want to talk about when, as prospective real estate customers in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, you might consider buying versus building. We'll go a little bit over the pros and cons of each, and overall, we'll go over a discussion of replacement costs and comparable listing prices. Of course, we'll be asking the question where and when you can get better value by buying land, where and when you can get better value by buying an existing home. And I will also talk about one listing that is currently priced well below the replacement cost as an example of where I think it would clearly be a better opportunity to buy an existing home rather than trying to buy land and build a new one, which is Rancho Golondrinas. Again, thanks very much for joining me. My name is Matt Rosensteel. Everything that I say here on my channel is based on my experience living and working here in Guanacaste since 2008. I originally came as a United States Peace Corps volunteer, and I've done everything from directing a watershed nonprofit organization to micro-lending enterprises to starting a chamber of commerce. So my unique experience gives me a perspective that I find very helpful for anyone considering investing here in Guanacaste. I'm currently a realtor serving the areas from Potrero all the way down through Junquillal and even further south to Marbella. So if you are looking to invest in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and you'd like to reach out, don't hesitate to send me an email to matt@costaricamat.com. Let's get on to our main topic today with our discussion. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, whether you are watching live or a replay of this broadcast, don't hesitate to post them in the comments, and I will be happy to completely veer off topic to answer them. Before I start, I just want to say one last thank you very much to all of my clients, the people who decide to email or call me and hire me as their realtor. Thank you for helping me put food on the table for my incredible family. So really what we're talking about today in balancing whether or not you should buy land or build, buy land and build a house or buy an existing home here in Guanacaste is a discussion of when and where the replacement cost is more than your comparable listing prices in the area. And really, I want to talk about when I think you can get better value through either strategy. Let's start out by talking about buying land and building and where and when I think that is a smart strategy. Well, first and foremost, let's remember something very important about the Guanacaste market. This was an agricultural area and is still extremely rural, where you've got many, many places that land is for sale. This conversion or the transition from that agricultural economy onward means that, yes, there are many pieces of land for sale. And essentially, if you're out there and you are somebody who is flexible on where you might want to live in Guanacaste, but if you are firm on the quality of home that you want, if you have a specific design and layout, your pool, etc., obviously, I feel strongly that you're going to get the top value by patiently looking for land, finding a parcel in an area that you find acceptable, and building your own home. An important dynamic to mention is that there is not the huge amount of inventory that you would see in the US or Canada that results from spec neighborhood building, the just massive amount of housing. Costa Rica is a country the size of West Virginia. And yeah, a lot of it is just green spaces. The amount of homes, if you're looking for something specific that you want that might match that, can actually land you in a situation where, in order to find the home that you want, you're choosing a location that's not really as ideal for you as if you had taken the opposite approach, where you thought, okay, I want to first find my area and the community that fits me, and then I'll build my home there. So really, that's sort of an attitude thing. I would also say, on the flip side of that point, if you are someone who has an absolute strict 100% standard for how your home must be, and if only one level of quality will work, otherwise you will be unhappy, you'll want to sell your property, you want to get out of it, then I can only recommend that you look at existing homes and buy them, simply because in Costa Rica, I guarantee you that even the top contractors, the luxury builders who are going upwards of $200, $300, $400 per square foot, they may be unable to meet your extremely high standards for construction. And the process of building, watching over them, getting involved in that might just be something that is way too stressful, giving the differences between what you are hoping for as a foreigner investing in Costa Rica and what the contractor is able to provide. So if you're one of those people that absolutely needs it to be one of these homes where everything is done perfectly, I would look at construction that's already been done, because then you can see it, you can absolutely evaluate whether or not it meets your standards, and there's no difficulty, there's no stress between you and that long process of working with a contractor. Again, I do feel even the top people that I recommend can struggle trying to work with clients that have that enormous, really just top standard, to the level where you might be a little OCD, or let's say perhaps only able to work with luxury contractors in different countries. Paul, totally. Thank you very much for joining us. Our first question of the day, building permit issued. Oh my gosh, the inflection point. Well, very interesting broadcast for you. I can discuss Paul's specific situation in just a little bit at the end of our broadcast as to whether I think he may want to build or decide to resell his land, and what I would consider. Because I do remember, I believe you've got a lot down near Ostional. So let's move on. I wanted to bring up a top example of someone who can buy land and build. Well, going back to this principle that anybody who's flexible on location but firm on the quality, aesthetic, and style of their home, right now, if you're somebody who needs to be close to private schools, or for example, you just need to really get into the western corner of Guanacaste somewhere, and you're not 100% focused on being in a particular exclusive gated community, I would highly suggest looking at the land available, because as I've suggested and sort of brought up on this channel in a couple of broadcasts now, I'll bring up the map to show you the particular corridor that I'm talking about. There's an explosion of new lots, individual family home sites being offered in this corridor right here, where currently, if you want to specifically live in the Mar Vista community, as one example, there are very few lots left. The ones that are available are extremely in high demand, and there's probably even buyers waiting to get anything that's reasonably priced. Also in Mar Vista, you've just got really huge ocean views and the proximity to the marina. If you're flexible and you don't necessarily need that, you will be able to get a much better value looking at one of the lot opportunities in another location, buying outside of Mar Vista and building your own home, rather than waiting for a Mar Vista home specifically to come on the market. Let's go on and talk a little bit about where and when I feel you can get better value by buying existing homes. And this, I do want to go back to those exclusive gated communities themselves, because a lot of people are focused on getting into neighborhoods that feel very secure, neighborhoods that have a lot of fellow American, Canadian, other relocating people there. Um, Directly within those exclusive gated communities, I feel that if you are somebody who is willing to buy an older, quirkier home, right now you are going to be able to get better value by purchasing those older homes, and I'll explain why. In those exclusive gated communities, and here I'm talking about places like Mar Vista, again, Hacienda Pinilla, Reserva Conchal, on and on, thinking downward, even Rancho Villarreal. Right now, the lot prices and the construction prices in those areas, I feel, are still going to combine to put you over the total project cost compared to what some of these older homes would actually sell for if you patiently negotiated with the sellers. That's a key caveat, patiently negotiating. There may be, for example, some of these older Spanish colonial homes that now were built 15 years ago, some of the oldest ones, some of them were only built 10 or 8 years ago. And the buyer preference coming down to Guanacaste has shifted toward those newer, sleeker, cleaner feeling homes. So the Spanish colonial homes can sit on the market, and you can actually see that eventually they're priced below replacement cost, considering that often they're fully concrete construction, they're really quality homes, and that they have these big spaces that you could previously build cheaper than more recent construction. These homes, yes, they've sat on the market because buyer preference has shifted away. And as a prospective buyer, you can get great value, not necessarily by, seeking the lowest priced, listing on the market and really going out into those weird areas. But instead, I really feel that even in prime exclusive gated communities, if you're willing to take a look at, that older construction, visit the home, do a showing, and if you're willing to purchase it, make an offer to the seller that expresses that you're willing to be patient for them to come down to your price, knowing that some of these homes are just going to continue to sit on the market. If I were someone in this position, I want to be in an exclusive gated community, but I'm not firm on having a bright, shiny new home, I would do a tour of all of those communities' older listings and make, even letter of intent offers lower than the asking price on the ones that I felt would work, and start to probe around for some of those sellers with the older listings who might really come around to your price with time. Didn't want to stop and not mention, thanks very much for tuning in. Pigs, always glad to have you on Friday. Every now and then I switch back and check on the comments. So again, right now in those gated communities, the lot prices are as high as they ever have been. And so if you are focused on, yes, I have to be in Hacienda Pinilla, it's going to be almost impossible to get the top value by buying a lot and building a new home, simply because, yes, the lot prices are at a historic high and construction prices have not really fallen since their peak post-COVID, or not fallen significantly. Yes, I think you've seen some builders start charging less than they were in the post-pandemic hype. There were builders out there who had so much excess of work that they were able to really just sort of quote whatever they wanted for new builds. Now that the market is tightening up and there's not as many projects going, more than anything, if contractors are lowering their prices, it's only because it's getting slower rather than the actual cost coming down at all. the materials costs and what you're seeing to actually build these homes is still going to be for a high quality, custom, full concrete construction home, somewhere around $175 a square foot if you're working with a contractor that I fully trust. From there, you can go upwards on luxury construction numbers. So I'll let everybody do their own replacement cost math out there on that. Now I want to address a quick question. How can you actually get that better value and avoid overspending when you're looking at either buying an existing home or picking up a piece of land and then going with a contractor? In both cases, your key resources are patience and local feedback and information. Really, in order to get the best value, whatever strategy you take, not rushing into a purchase and being willing to outweight sellers on their asking price is always going to be one of the top keys to making sure that you're getting a fair price. You also have to be patient in actually looking at the comps on the market. I see both types of clients. There are some out there who know that things are a little bit expensive right now, and they decide they want to move forward with a purchase regardless, and they're willing to assume that things are either going to get more expensive or stay at the current level. There are others who are willing to wait to find that value that feels right for the market. And overall, I think that no matter what, you need to make sure that you're working with a realtor who is helping you consider this in the overall scheme of your investment. You will meet a lot of agents and brokers even out there who just sort of say, well, this is a good deal. And yeah, I can tell you it's a great price. And I always encourage my listeners, ask them directly, well, what data led you to that conclusion, so that you can actually see whether they're backing that up with comps and they can spew off a few numbers that matter and prove what they're saying, or if they were just saying something optimistic to try and impress you as a prospective buyer. By the way, if you want to hear my data and the information that I give to my clients, do be sure to send me an email to matt@costaricamatt.com. It would be a pleasure to supply you with that information rather than just making blanket statements like, oh, this is a good price. So moving on, I also wanted to mention a key to avoid overspending in either strategy. Yes, your agent has to help you do your market research, find the realistic, actual historic prices that things have been closing in that market. And if you choose to build, you must be ready to actually listen to realistic construction costs from the best top recommended providers in those areas, and assume that that kind of number is what it's going to cost you to build your home. People end up feeling that they've gone down the wrong road. Oh, wow, I bought land and built, and now it's cost me twice as much as I expected. And very often what happened was they didn't ask enough people regarding which contractor could actually get the job done. And then they didn't ask those particular contractors, the ones that had the top recommendations, what the realistic numbers were. You see people who just sort of say, well, I want to build my own house. I'm going to find a contractor who gives me the answers that really I like or want to hear. And that's a real plague on your investment strategy. You have to ask the best contractors in the area, okay, how much is it realistically going to build my 1,500 square foot home with these features and this style, et cetera, and actually absorb what they're saying. If they say, okay, it's $175 a square foot, you can't think, well, I bet I could find someone cheaper and immediately go shopping for cheaper contractors. Doing that will land you in a basket of trouble along with the other people who tried that strategy and ended up 10 years later saying, wow, I really spent more on my build than I intended to. I also wanted to mention one type of area where you can find that buying an existing home is far better than buying land buying an existing home is far better than buying land, would be those rural, undeveloped areas once you get out of the tourism centers. Again, to bring up Google Maps, in Guanacaste, there are these giant tourism hubs, or relatively giant. There are maybe 6,000 or 7,000 people living in areas like Tamarindo, living down in Nosara. The areas in between, here's the Nosara area. The areas in between those hubs where there is not much development, and oftentimes where there are very little amenities, road access isn't as great, typically speaking, you can absolutely find homes that are priced well below the replacement cost, even when you take into account depreciation. If you're willing to live in one of these more rural areas, you're looking to get away from tourism, and you don't really care about being on a dusty, potholed road, then absolutely you can look at some of the existing homes, because essentially what's happened in our market is that the folks who previously built those homes, they often did so on two false ideas. One could have been that the road was about to be paved and the area was about to be changing. Or second, they might have thought, well, I'm going to love this someday and I'm going to be really happy even though I'm an hour from a supermarket and anybody else. It's 10 years from when they built. They realized that this was not for them. And those homes in the rural areas go up for sale somewhere near what they cost the owner to build them. Unfortunately, what happens is, we've had that buyer preference shift. Everybody these days, or not everybody, a large cohort of our prospects looking at Costa Rica real estate want to be closer to amenities. They need options for a private school. They want to be within an hour of the Liberia International Airport, and those rural, undeveloped area homes sit on the market. Their prices, they accumulate, and eventually, with that strategy I mentioned earlier of submitting offers on a variety of homes and sort of letting them sit there for a while, I guarantee you can find incredible values, homes that are going to cost far below what it costs to build them today, in areas that don't necessarily appeal to every single the new wave of people that are coming down to Guanacaste. I want to talk about one property that is priced well below what it would cost to replace it today, even accounting for depreciation. We're looking at Rancho Golondrinas in Rio Seco de Santa Cruz. This will soon hopefully be featured in a video about what I would buy if I had $350,000. And the reason is that now at this price, I do feel this is a very strong value, priced under what it would cost to build this home, even when you need to fix up a few things because this home is over 10 years old. And overall, this is a property I love because it's so similar to my own home and what I consider to be the best of Guanacaste living. First of all, so it's 2,400 square feet and it's a concrete structure. You can see inside it has a hardwood ceiling and rafters. That 2,400 square feet of interior space, these days, it would cost you something like, let me do the math really quick, my apologies, $350,000 to build new, regardless of, really, that would even be finding a great contractor who did it for you at a pretty good price of $150 per square foot, or just under that. $150 would actually be $360. Obviously, this is an older house. Depreciation on a concrete home is totally different. You're not talking about 60 years that will need to completely redo everything. These homes will last for a century if somebody replaces the roof, and if along the way you make sure that there's not water getting in, or basically just maintaining it and keeping things away from the property. So at $350,000, we're talking about a cost that is under the new build number. This is a fully furnished home, and it comes on an acre of property that typically, these days in the market would cost you, even in the affordable range, $70,000 to $80,000. So, before we talk about the land cost, before we talk about furnishing the home or the landscaping, the fence, the other improvements, the gate, the garage, all of this, we're talking about $350,000 as, just overall a price that is far below what it would take to replace today. And the home, I should say, the home is one of my absolute favorites, also because it's tucked a couple hundred yards off of a highway. You don't hear anything. It's like being in the woods and living in the forest in Guanacaste, yet you have great access, and you don't have to spend hours on any kind of bad road. You literally turn off from this main road and you head to Rancho Golondrinas. It's 10 minutes from the beach, and just a second, I'll actually bring up the location. It is 10 minutes from the beach, and I should also mention the property has its own well. That's another improvement that goes above and beyond the $350,000 in value. Rancho Golondrinas, sorry, I just have to locate things right here, is tucked here in the forest in Costa Rica. Actually, it's just back in here. Sorry, that's Rancho Golondrinas. And you are just a 10, 15-minute drive out to the beach here. You're about a 30-minute drive into Playa Tamarindo, where you have supermarkets, all kinds of amenities, world-class fancy restaurants, and everything else you could use. Paul, I still have not gotten to your lot, and my apologies. I've gone on a little bit longer than I expected. Somebody's been texting me constantly. I'm going to tell them I am broadcasting right now. And Paul, I'm now going to take a couple minutes to answer your question about your Ostional lot. If you're looking at $350 to $450 per square foot of luxury construction, I would say that, the big question for you is going to be, has anybody else started buying the lots in your neighborhood? I know that in Ostional, there was sort of an expansion where people from Nosara had started buying towards Ostional. My question to you is whether that wave actually continued, or whether you were sort of one of the pioneers, plopped down, and now no one else is moving up there. If the latter is the case, then I would strongly consider building and trying to take advantage of the next cycle where, more people are going to be moving up there. You're going to have interest in buying a home. Unfortunately, if the wave went up there and now you've seen that people have receded back towards Nosara, I think it would be difficult to resell your lot, still, avoiding any loss on your end, since you only acquired it a year or two ago. And you might find that it's difficult to resell just the land piece right now, whereas patiently building right now, yes, you're going to end up with a home in an absolutely beautiful spot where during, what I would feel would be the sort of next wave of people expanding outward from Nosara, they would absolutely be looking towards your area, and your home could be a huge asset. Anyhow, 2 holds sold. Oh, sounds good that it's heating up a lot. In that case, you may just resell the property itself. If you can get out for a profit, why trouble yourself with the construction? I guarantee you it can be a bit more stressful than some people out there want. I'll be back live next Friday on Guanacaste Day, El Día de la Anexión de Guanacaste, July 25th. Thanks very much for joining me, folks. I greatly appreciate it. Have a good one, and I look forward to our next chat.